Hey, welcome to another episode of Create Good Stories. We're going to talk a little bit at the beginning with my brothers Noah.
Hello.
And Eli.
Hi.
Here we go. So, Noah, you're going to introduce this one.
Okay, we thought it'd be fun to talk about some of the phrases that our family said a lot growing up, especially our mom, who had some really cool sayings that she used to say, like heavens to Murgatroyd. What was the context there? Give us an example.
That was a Grandma Hazel piece.
Grandma that passed on?
Yeah.
So I remember Mom saying that.
Like if you're like surprised or like, oh, come on, like heavens to Murgatroyd.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
That's true. Yes. The first one that came to my mind, it was, do not drive out there right now. The roads are as slick as snot.
Yes,
you guys remember that?
I do remember that. Or when Mom was trying to remember, like, she's like trying to remember somebody's name. You know, Hoochie Duke.
I'm about to have a conniption.
Conniption.
In probably a kinder voice than I just did. But one fun one is not really a saying, but is she was trying to remember where she had seen something, and this was years ago. And she's like, "Yeah, I saw it on My Face." Because there used to be, for those of you who are a little older, there was a thing called MySpace, which was before Facebook. So it's kind of a cute mashup. My Face. I saw that on My Face.
Our mom, Linda Iyer, she had some amazing phrases. Oh, the one I remembered it now. She said, I'm as mad as a hornet.
Yeah, that's it.
She's as mad as a hornet.
But not too long ago, she saw an older person that was older walked in and said, "Look, you're just looking great. You just hopped in here like a bunny."
Man. phrases. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Noah, because in Dad Mode in the book, I think phrases can be really powerful in the family setting. You know, if you want your kids to remember something, usually in families, there's this thing where people will be like, "This is our phrase," or "These are the things that we say as a family," and some of them are pretty funny. Like some of the stuff my mom said, and then there's other phrases that are that actually help us.
Like this one. "Surprise, Daddy? If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I would not be more surprised than I am right now." Can you name the movie?
Christmas Vacation.
Oh, gee, Clark.
He's like stacking and like tons of dog food into the grocery cart, like as they're walking.
Yeah, and Clark's telling Eddie, he's like, "Eddie, I want you guys to have a good Christmas. We're gonna get your kids present." "Oh, gee, Clark, that's so nice of you." And then he pulls out, he's like, "Here's a list." He's like, "And if it's not too much, I'm gonna get a nice present for you too."
Wait, what's the one about the microwave? There's a really funny one that he says, like, something happened in the microwave.
Oh, she falls in a ditch. Her eyes go cross-eyed.
You get kicked by a mule?
Kicked by a mule, they go back again. I don't know.
He says something about a microwave, too, that I can't remember. I'm sure some of you listeners, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Okay, who was the microwave who played in the NBA? I bet some of the listeners know who I'm talking about. You guys know who the microwave was?
No?
Sharif Abdul-Rahim?
I know about
He played for the Detroit Pistons.
Joe Dumars?
No, but you're close.
Isaiah Thomas?
No, the microwave.
John
I don't
Sally?
remember his name.
Come on, guys.
It's like on the tip of my tongue, but I actually don't know it. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. I'll bring it up.
Okay, Eddie, here's what he says. Sorry. Eddie says, "Don't go putting none of that stuff on my sled, Clark. You know that you know that metal plate in my head? I had it replaced because because every time Catherine revved up the microwave, I'd piss my pants and forget who I was."
There it is.
There you go.
That's the microwave one I was thinking of.
This is another good Ira thing. It gets a little late. It's getting a little late here, and we start crying. We start laughing.
I pissed my pants and forget who I was for half an hour or so. So over at the VA, they had to replace it with plastic.
Eli, do me a favor. Look up the microwave. What? Because now I'm sure the listeners already know.
The mailman, the microwave.
But I can see how
Vinny
he
Johnson.
shot. He just heat right up like a microwave. He was a good player, that Vinny. So, awesome, guys. Any other last phrases that you guys remember?
Oh man, I just remembered that I came across a whole stack of basketball cards in my storage the other day. We're gonna have to look through those.
No way.
We got some good ones.
I bet I
some
got a
Shaq rookies.
Kelly Tripucka rookie.
You remember Josh? Who was it? Somebody traded
It was me.
Oh,
Jeff
yeah.
Holden,
Tell.
Michael Jordan
That's
Okay.
a
rookie.
very
There's a story.
sore spot for me.
There's
This
a
is
story.
good, though.
Hold.
This is good. We're on the basketball theme. So I got the Fleer rookie card of Michael Jordan from the Top Stop gas station. I had it in very good condition. I was super excited about it. One of my older brothers, 5 years older than I am,
No, his friend.
his friend,
Scott.
yeah, Scott. Sorry, Scott, but I'm gonna call you out right now. He knew that card was worth a lot, so he traded it
convinced Talmadge to trade him
for Jeff Malone. Sorry, Jeff Malone, but you're not Michael Jordan. You had the weirdest shot.
Actually,
ever,
Jeff Malone could make a shot like nobody that was off balance.
He could
but-
square those shoulders.
He had the highest release, except for Bill Cartwright. I
Yeah,
don't
Bill
think there's
Cartwright,
anyone
definitely.
that has a higher release than him. So
But
anyway,
Tal traded it.
I traded it.
Fair and
I
square.
regretted that for a while. I'd like to look up how much that card is worth now, but
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. eBay used $399,000.
that is the card. That is the. I remember
can't be
that
right.
card.
What
How much?
The heck? $399,000.
I thought you were going to say $399. I was like, you're okay.
I mean, it's on eBay, so maybe people are getting a little out of control.
Wait, that's
but-
not even funny anymore. I'm not laughing at all, Scott. Scott,
Is that
I'm
the
coming
one?
for you.
$399,000.
I'll give you the Jeff Malone back.
Well,
Just
okay.
do
Here,
us-
if it makes you feel any better, here's another one that's only 9,000. So
Oh my god. Anyway,
another one for
That could have
450,000.
paid. That could have paid for a sponsorship of this episode.
this is a perfect segue into the.
Fleer. We need to talk to Fleer. They owe us some money for talking about that.
You know, I think they actually did come with gum too. You guys
Oh, yeah,
remember
they
that?
sure did.
You had like a stick of gum. It was a little bit powdery, and then you had it had that nice
Yeah.
feel to it. You open up
Yeah,
the
but
package.
that gum would get hard after like about 12 chews.
That's true. It wasn't very good gum.
So Tal, tee this episode up for us. What are we
Okay,
listening
so this episode is a former basketball player who is Italian from the northern part of Italy. And you guys will not believe this, but he scored 73 points in one game. I could not believe it. When I first met him, I was like, all right, you played basketball. What was your high point game? And I thought he would say something, like 35. 73 points.
Wow.
He just said he just caught fire. It was this tournament he was
It
in.
was like a semi-pro.
It was like a semi-pro, team.
Big
in,
guy,
in
small guy?
Italy. He's a big guy, a wonderful dad. And I sat down with him and
Italian Dirk.
Italian Dirk. He'd probably appreciate that. He's going to hear this. So Lorenzo, thank you for being on the podcast. And without further ado, here's my interview with Lorenzo. All right, Lorenzo, welcome to the podcast. First of all, I'd like to just start by asking you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and maybe where you're from.
Thank you, Tal. I'm Lorenzo, come from Italy. I'm 49 years old, and for 12 years I live in Switzerland with my wife and my two children who are both born in Switzerland.
And your wife is from?
My wife is from Germany.
From Germany. Great. Okay. Well, I thought it would be really interesting to have you on the podcast today to just talk about your experience, because you grew up in Italy, you now live in Switzerland, your wife is from Germany, your kids are living in the Swiss culture. So we're going to get into that today. But before we do that, I want you to tell our listeners about your upbringing, where you grew up, maybe even a little bit about basketball. We're both former basketball players, and just how your childhood and the parenting that you got from your parents influenced your life. And I just have to say to the listeners that I just met Lorenzo's parents, and they are amazing. They're so great. And he was joking with me that his mom is really tall, and she's super short, actually. When I met her, I was like, how in the world is Lorenzo, who's about 6 foot, 6'5", how was he able to grow from these two smaller people? His dad is taller, but his mom is really short.
Yeah. Okay, I fooled you, eh?
yeah, that was good.
I grew up in North Italy. Both my parents are from Italy, but not exactly from the region I grew up. They both moved when they were 15, around that age. I spent all my childhood in North Italy, precisely at Lago Maggiore, which is very close to Switzerland. As you just said, I was a bowler. I was playing basketball 20 years, and quite seriously, I would say, as a semi-professional, I reached good goals in my career. Never been full professional. Basketball is very popular in Italy. I like that time. I really enjoy that time. When I can tell you how I grew up as a child in Italy, and I can now see how my childhood was when I comparing to the childhood my kids are living at the moment, with two parents with different background, Italian background, German background from my wife. Growing up in a different country, which is Switzerland,
yes.
Having speaking different languages, because kids speak the mom's language, father's language, plus the local language, which is a German dialect. They are, I would say, privileged to grow up like this.
It's a wonderful lifestyle here in Switzerland, but it's different, right, than what you grew up with and what your wife grew up with. It's almost like a third culture that they're growing up in.
Absolutely, I agree. You also have to know the bonding in Italy kids have with grandparents. Grandparents are very important, mostly the side of the mom, because grandparents are used to help a lot in the family whenever it is taking the kids from school or bringing them to a swimming course or to the basketball court. And what we haven't experienced, or what we don't experience currently, is this help from grandparents from both sides, my side and my wife's side. Because we help each other. We are on a parent's duty. Of course, mostly my wife, but my wife is also involved. She's working, so she's not an housewife, and we have to find ourselves the time for our kids. What in the past was made a lot from grandparents.
Yeah, I want to dig into that more. Okay, so in the Italian culture, it's a culture where the grandparents help a lot, specifically the mom's side, right?
Exactly.
The family. So I just met your mom. She's so good you can tell she's great with kids, and she's a wonderful lady. We tried to speak in Italian. I didn't do very well, but so that would be what you would do if you lived in Italy. But you don't have that here, right? And I want to talk about this because I just want to frame it for the listeners. The idea in my book is about the idea of co-parenting. And the co-parenting, a lot of people say, oh, a co-parent is like if you're divorced or separated, you figure out how to both be the parents. But I think it should be used also in married relationships, or just in long-term relationships where your partner and you are co-parenting. You're both the parents and you're co-parenting your kids. So one of the things I say in the book is to actually have a weekly meeting where you actually sit down with your partner, and it sounds kind of funny, but it actually helps us a ton. Every Sunday, my wife and I sit down and we talk through the week ahead. And we say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what's happening. This is my schedule, your schedule, our daughter's schedule. And then how do we coordinate it? And it's just a short thing. It's very informal, but it's a great way to sort of coordinate this parenting thing. How do you do it in your home?
It has to be like this, absolutely. We have to plan our week because sometimes the schedule of our children are different. They have sometimes a soccer match or sometimes a tennis match in summer. They go skiing with the class, so we have also to adapt our schedule to their schedule. Yeah. And as you said before, thank you for the nice words of my mom. She's also a great cook. I have to admit,
Italian food.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What does she make? That's really good.
She makes really nice lasagna. Very tasty, very good. And she brought lasagna with her because now she came to visit us in Switzerland. And this is also a good topic because this week we have really a tough schedule with our children, and my wife at school has also a different schedule than normal. So we couldn't really manage to do everything on our own. This is why I asked my parents to come and help us.
Okay, that's why they're here. Okay, that's good for the listeners to know as well. So it's just too much sometimes. So having grandparents around is so helpful for your kids.
It is. My parents can see the difference between me and my brother. My brother also has 2 kids, and how they grew up and how my kids grow up. Yes. My brother always received the help of my parents because they live close
to them in Italy, in northern Italy.
Exactly. And my brother also has a particular situation is not together with his partner anymore, and he really got help from my parents. I can't see another way he could have handled the kids at that time. Nowadays, if you are an expat like me and my wife, is another challenge. You have to handle it, and sometimes it's great because at the end of the day, you look back and say, "Hey, I did everything on my own." Talking as a family on our own, so which is great, I think.
Why is it the mom's responsibility to take care of, or to be in charge of the kids sometimes? Is it just the way it's always been in Italy, or is it, I'm just curious.
Because I think the answer is quite simple. Women in Italy using to work that time. So if the mom is not a professional, then it's natural that the mom takes the duty.
Okay. I'm curious about that because I've known some Italians in the last 8 years that I've lived around here, and it seems to be still quite traditional in some places where the mom is still like more at the home, and or has that changed now where women are also doing a lot of kind of working and splitting the work, or just in general?
I would say it's changing. It's changing. Yeah.
Okay.
Father take also more responsibilities since women are working. I would say that in the past was in South Italy mostly not like that, but now it's pretty much everywhere like that.
Okay. So tell the listeners the difference between South and North Italy if they don't know that, because that's really a big thing in Italy.
There are 2 major facts, I would say: the lack of work in South Italy and the cost of life. If just one parent works in South Italy, it's enough. This is why a mom is still an old mom as a style. So the mom who takes care of housekeeping and takes care of the children and everything. And in North Italy, the cost of life are higher, even though the salaries are a bit higher.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not enough, just one salary at home. You need 2 salaries
Right.
to grow up a family.
In northern, so around Milan and all the way across to Parma and like Venice
exactly.
and all that.
Yeah.
That's the higher earning part of Italy. That's where a lot of the money is. And then in the south, which I didn't know this before I moved here, is a lot. The cost of living is much lower. There's a lot of big families.
Exactly.
It seems to be more religious down there. Like is
Correct.
that right? Am I right? Yeah.
You're
Okay.
right. Correct.
And so we're going to go down to that area in a couple months, and I'm looking forward to just seeing the difference, because I've spent a lot of time in Milan and around the north, but the south is a whole different.
You will be really welcome from people from the south. Yeah.
Okay, so they're very welcoming. It's the hospitality.
Definitely. Yeah.
And the food. I mean, I can't wait to have the pizza down there.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. That helps. I think a lot of the listeners have probably been to Italy, but it's such a great connection with the States, because you go to New York and there's so many Italians there already, and that it's part of the city culture is Italians, and so there's a real nice connection with the States. Is that the same for Italians? Do they feel a good feeling towards Americans most of the time?
Yeah, sure. I went to America a few times, and when you are in America and you are Italian, you are still something special. I think it's just like this.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about stories. We talked about your fairy tales that you grew up with, and then how it's changing with your kids.
Yeah, this is, I can see now a very big difference when I grew up. So my mom or my father used to read a book, sitting next to us on a bed, me and my brother, who is 3.5 years older than me. And they were reading these fairy tales that sometimes now, at that time you didn't realize, but nowadays when you go deep into the stories, you think, what stories like in my childhood were Heidi, this poor girl in the Swiss mountains with a grandfather. And I can see now my kids, they are 9 and 6, and they listen to stories from Spotify, from a device.
Yes.
Nice stories. It's different. I would say it's slightly better than I experienced, but it's different. It's better for them.
And how is it better for them? I mean, you get some of those grim fairy tales. They're pretty grim, but they're really about scary things, in the forest and things like that. Is it better now for the kids who get? I mean, the stories they listen to now, are they better?
They're just different. I think that they wanted to scare us in a kind of way when we were a child. Okay, the end was always a good end, but the middle of the story was always something scary, something to be aware of. I don't think we need this nowadays.
Right. And I've got a recommendation for our listeners on stories, actually, I think on Spotify, but on any podcast app, you can find something called Circle Round, and it's this amazing storytelling podcast, completely free. It has some ads in the middle of it. I think that's how they do it, but basically it's amazing stories from around the world. And my daughter, every time we were in the car, if it wasn't a story that I was telling her or my partner was telling, she wanted to listen to this app. So I recommend that. It's called Circle Round by WBUR Boston, and it's a wonderful way to pass the time on traveling and things like that.
Is there also in German language?
I don't think they have it in German, so
I have to wait my kids to grow up a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me about your kids and how you have found ways to connect with them.
For example, for me, it is really important to still stick to Italian to them, to speak Italian to them, and to communicate in Italian with them. So as I said, we live in Switzerland. My wife is German, and we in the family speak two languages. So I speak directly to my kids Italian, and my wife speaks German, which I find great. And Italian is something really connects just me and my kids. It's something really really personal. And I try to connect them, for example, also with sport. I played basketball in Italy, and basketball is not very common in Switzerland. But I bought my kids a little basket.
Good. Yes, good.
Basketball and some. Yeah, I try to play with them, and yeah, I would like to bring them a bit of my background as well.
Okay, so your language and also you play basketball with them. Those are great topics, and we've got to still talk more about basketball at the end. Okay, those are really great ways to connect. And then they, just for the listeners to know, they speak Swiss German at their school, I'm pretty sure. Is that right? And so that's a different language. It's a dialect of High German. So your wife speaks the High German from Germany. And then in Switzerland, it's a dialect of German on the east side of Switzerland. And that's called Swiss German. And it's very different than High German.
Yeah.
And so you've got a lot of languages going on in your home.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I would say that sooner or later my kids will speak Swiss German together, mostly because of their friends around. But at the moment when they talk together, they talk High German, which is the mom language. But it's amazing how they switch from a language to the other. Sometimes we have a friend of them visiting us. They play, they watch TV, they talk together, and whenever they ask something to me or to their mom, they switch the language. This is great.
Wow. And so do they study Italian at school?
Paolo, the older one, will start learning Italian next year, which is mandatory in our region.
Yes. My daughter's also studying Italian. Yeah. So that'll be very easy for them.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be so, spoiled, because he speaks Italian, but he doesn't know any grammar. So he shouldn't know that he's the best of the best. He's not, he's an Italian speaker, of course, but he has to also learn some grammar, which is also difficult in German, because when you grow up speaking Swiss German, the German grammar is also a big challenge for them.
Just knowing that many languages is fascinating, and it's just a way of life here in Switzerland. Everybody knows a handful of languages because there's so many people around, and just you can be in Italy in how long? An hour or two? You can be
in 2 hours. I'm in Italy.
2 hours in Italy. You can get to Germany. You can get over to France pretty quickly. And it's just. Yeah, so language is just a part of life here. And your kids are a good example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we kind of finish this up, I just wanted to, first of all, find out if there's anything else you wanted to say about your experience as a dad or in parenting that you want to share with the listeners.
In general, there's always something to learn as a parent, and it's amazing. It's an amazing journey being a parent. Yeah, crazy.
It is. It's an amazing journey. Well said. It's a story that we're all creating, and we're trying to make a good story. And every story provides a different challenge. It sounds like Lorenzo has a lot of challenges that I don't have when it comes to the culture differences. Maybe the duties of parents and co-parenting because you don't have family around, and also just in making sense of this new world that our kids are growing up in.
Absolutely. And my commitment also to be even closer to my kids was to improve my German in order to understand also when they talk together, when they talk to their mom, and so that we can have a conversation in different languages when we sit on the table, but we still understand each other pretty well.
Yeah. Okay, well, and to finish out, we need to talk some basketball because we're both former basketball players, and I got to tell the listeners, when I first met Lorenzo, I was like, all right, this is cool. I know another basketball player. And I asked him just point blank, right up front. I said, what's the best game you've ever had? How many points have you had? And I'm sure he's not very happy that I'm bringing this up, but I love this topic because he killed it in a game. He must have been on fire. So tell him how many points you had.
Yeah, it was a particular game. I scored 73 points.
73 points. I mean, that's crazy. You must have been absolutely on fire.
Yeah, on fire, exactly.
Three-pointers, a lot?
A lot.
A lot of threes. Wow. So you're like a European big man that can shoot from outside.
I was, yeah.
Oh, man. So, how can people find you? Like, do you have any clips online, or do you have any?
No, I was not that famous, I would say. No.
I'd love to. I have like one YouTube clip of me playing ball when I was young, and it has like 500 views, and I must have probably put in a couple hundred of those myself.
Okay.
No, not just a joke, but I probably have watched it maybe 10, 15 times.
I have some recording, but they must be on some device, USB stick or CD, ROM, something like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing about being dads is, you have this whole other life, and you try and tell your kids about it. You try and like help them know. But I showed this video to my daughter the other day, and she's like, "You played? Like, that's so cool." And it's just the age now that she actually gets it,
I can tell you, when sometimes we watch basketball games on TV, they ask, "Where are you?" or "Where were you?" if we watch games from former times. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never started in university at all. I was always kind of like a role player, like sixth man kind of guy. So the few clips I do have are just like blocks or like rebounds or steals. There's not that much scoring going on my side in university days, but it was still fun. So tell the listeners about this. What team did you play for in the semi-pro?
I played in the fourth Liga, as highest Liga in Italy. There were some professional players. This means that they were paid enough not to have a job. Yeah. But at that time, I did both. So both playing and working. So at the age of 35, when I stopped, I had so a good working background to go on with my working career.
Okay. And who's your favorite player in the NBA right now?
I am more stick to the 90s, so still a fan of the GOAT. For me, Michael Jordan.
There you go. You're saying the right word there. There's only one GOAT, in my opinion.
There are so many good players nowadays. There's Giannis, great player. I'm not a fan of the three-point shooter, too many three-point shooter at the moment. I'm more a fan of all-rounder player who can do anything on the court. So Giannis is a good example for me.
Yeah.
Luka is.
You gotta love Luka, right? Yeah, he's
Luka
from just around the corner here. Isn't he Slovenian?
Yeah, Slovenian, exactly.
Yeah. We talked briefly about how the sport is going in a different direction. We're both from the kind of 90s stuff, but just the All-Star game recently, right?
Oh, no, please. It's not a game anymore. It's not fun anymore. No.
We couldn't believe how many shots were just thrown up, zero defense, and it's just the changing of the game. We watched some All-Star games from back in the day, and they were like really guarding each other.
Yeah.
Exactly. Really. So I feel like I'm dating myself when I talk about this, because now it's a different world, and my daughter last night was saying, "Dad, that's from the 1800s. You're talking from the 1800s." I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I'm that old. But or that she thinks I'm that old. But so that's great. Well, any other final points you want to make? Basketball or anything
Basketball,
else?
let's do some balls sometimes, me and you.
We need to shoot. We're going to play a game of horse. because 73 points. I never had 73 points in a game.
Now I'm really under pressure.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Very welcome.
Lorenzo. We really appreciate it. We'll put some pictures of Lorenzo on the show notes so you guys can get an idea of him and maybe his family. Yeah, thanks for being on.
Thank you too.
Create Good Stories is hosted by me, Tal Iyer, with the help of my brothers Noah and Eli Iyer. Thank you to Marco Vitelli for making the music come to life, and Kayo Bechle for the graphic design.
You know that metal plate in my head? I had it replaced because I had to have it replaced because every time Catherine revved up the microwave, I'd piss my pants and forget who I was.
There it is.